We're going. Hello, it's showtime.
Hi guys, it's Charlotte and Jessica coming to you live
and in the flesh.
Downtown Pensacola. It's a rainy night here in Pensacola, but it's nice and warm. Like you've got on your light breezy attire, and I have on light breezy attire as well.
Spring is on the horizon. I think there was a countdown the other day that I posted on my personal social media that was like, it's 56 days till daylight savings time. It was like, yes, spring is coming.
Spring is, well, look at us.
Yeah, it's like 70 degrees outside.
This is about as springy as I get. You've got the pretty colors. I always still gonna wear like grays and browns and blacks, but I don't have sleeves on.
I just like this. I just want to like cockatoo.
Yeah.
My mother thought that I should have this shirt. It's not something I would ever buy for myself.
Oh my God, it's
fantastic. And
how could you
thank
not?
you, Mom.
I love it.
I've gotten so many amazing compliments.
Yes, and it makes me think
But
spring
let's
is
move on.
around the corner. Coming to you live from Aragon Wine Market on this beautiful rainy night.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah, we've got Valentine's Day right around the
This
corner.
is my eye to you. You still have not purchased your special happy.
You've literally got 2 days.
Couple days.
Friday and Saturday, because Sunday nobody. Oh wait, yeah, Sunday is it.
You could make something happen on Sunday, but it would be really aggressive.
You're going to go to Walgreens, which is fine. I've been known to go to Walgreens last minute to get supplies, but
we definitely have baskets and specialty items available. Get a consumable, get something, a bubbly to start your night off. Even
we have some great bubblies. We've got some really fancy bubblies in. We've got some real fancy bubblies in the store right now. So if you're into real fancy bubblies, we've got some real fancy bubblies. If you're into not so fancy bubblies, we've got some not so fancy bubblies. You gotta have bubbly at Valentine's Day. So start with that. We've also got some super nice reds in as well. I'm not naming names, even though I could. We've got some great ones. So come in and see us. So come in and see us around that. But literally you've got just tomorrow and Saturday. So go ahead and get those things done.
Dun, dun, dun.
Also what we've got on deck is we've actually got some private events that have been booked. So if you're thinking maybe, I want to get together with my girlfriends, maybe I want to have
the ultimate date night out. Just think about this.
Yeah,
you and your lover, you come in, you have a private wine tasting, you get some education, some intimacy, and you're trying some new amazing things, and then you go to dinner together. Valentine's Day, Pepe, is Sunday, so tighten up if you don't know when it is. It is this Sunday, but thank you so much for joining us. Definitely come in, have that private wine tasting, get a little bit of education, and then go to dinner, have a reservation if you haven't already.
After that, I don't know. There's lots of things.
The world is your oyster.
Yeah, really. Absolutely. So, but Jessica is in the private event business. She is an event planner. So she's actually a little coup that we have here because she charges, she usually charges money, but if you're going to have the event here.
I come with the house.
She comes with the house. But if you're not going to come have an event here, please still,
absolutely.
Please still book her because she's awesome. Yeah. So,
for your private event.
So that's coming up. And then, as far as virtual wine tastings, I've made a decision tonight. We're going to have one more month of March for the virtual wine tastings. And then we're going to go, we hope, knock wood, here's some wood, into the in-store wine tastings starting in April. We hope, we think. And I have enjoyed these so much that I think that we will somehow incorporate them into the monthly routine. I don't know whether it'll be, in conjunction with the Thursday tasting or as a separate event. But we've really enjoyed meeting so many people from across the world, winemakers, different people in the industry, and it's just been so fantastic. People that wouldn't necessarily always come to Pensacola, we've been able to talk to those kind of people. And Fred says you need music. Thank you, Fred. We do. We will definitely call you for some live music when we get back to the wine tastings. Fred's awesome. Fred is playing at the district on this Friday night. I saw him a few Fridays ago, and he's awesome. He's also going to be doing some music for some of my events. So thanks, Fred, for tuning in. But so anyway, so that's good. So how does this work? This is a virtual wine tasting. Hopefully you've gotten your wines for tonight. We're doing Txakolina. I like to sing. And then we're doing a Carlos Sierra's Rioja as well. So hopefully you will have gotten your wines tonight.
And just to explain that a little bit further, each week we're going to announce the wines that we're featuring, giving you an entire week to pick up the wines in the store. If you don't live here locally with us, certainly we understand and appreciate you following us from abroad. But realistically, if you are here in Pensacola, come on by Aragon Wine Market, pick up your wine bottles, take them home with you or wherever you're going to be. And whether it's on the exact night of the broadcast or not, we have this beautiful broadcast with all kinds of education components available for you to learn about these wines. So we go live every Thursday at 6 p.m. So basically each week we're going to announce giving you a week to pick up those bottles here in the shop, take them home and enjoy and tune in for something that is the new normal or has been
for almost a year now.
Before we get to our next introduction, our guest asked, how long have you been doing this? And it's like, oh wow, almost a year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
A year.
But
so
it's been awesome. Really fun, and we're everybody kind of adapts to their circumstances, and I think we've tried to do that, and we really appreciate you guys tuning in. I will say, please ask questions.
Definitely.
We've got some of the top people joining us that know all about these wines, that know tonight Spanish wines. So take advantage of that. Ask some questions. Just post it in a little thing. You don't even have to, make it a big deal.
Yeah, we're gonna ask the question for you. That's been one of the coolest things about this new adjusted process. It puts us in front of people that we wouldn't normally talk to. Michael Fix is amazing. Our local reps are amazing, but to talk to the national reps or the vice president of an organization or the winemaker themselves, and, to have that direct knowledge,
or the owners, or however it is.
It's been such a cool change of process. So
without further ado,
today we're going to be featuring these two wines that are so amazing. I'm super excited. This is a 4th-generation importer since 1978 that has been bringing in wines from all around the world. And today their VP is with us, their VP of Portfolio Management and Education, which is awesome because he's all over education and
he knows all
here
about
to teach us all kinds of amazing things. We've definitely featured a few of their wines already, the Malt Grave, Colombard, and the Costa Gascone, Quinta de la Rosa, and several others. So we're going to go ahead and introduce Lee Schlesinger, and then of course bring in Michael Fix, our go-to amazing guy. Hi, Lee.
Hi, ladies.
How
Good
are
evening.
you joining us?
Thanks. Hello from snowy Chicago.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, look, you're not wearing shorts. Well, you actually are wearing short sleeves.
I'm indoors.
Yeah.
You're probably from up there, huh?
But he said it was it was 25 degrees and not Florida. It's earlier.
Not Florida.
It's 25
not really
degrees there, which is a
weather.
realm I don't even want to be in. Well, we're
Say
so
hi to
thankful
Mike.
that you're joining us. Yeah, absolutely. And Michael Fix, we've got you joining us as well. Michael Fix is, as always, for almost a year, the entire time.
Yes.
Has been our go-to guy that helps organize everything, coordinate with these amazing reps and VPs and owners and vintners around the world. And we just so appreciate him in every way. So we're happy to have him.
And I see Carol Moore is joining us for the evening.
Carol.
Thank you, Carol. Carol's a big supporter, and we do appreciate that. So, Lee, tell us a little bit about the company in general. Like, what wines do they search after to bring into the States and share with all of us?
Yeah, so the company, as you mentioned, started in 1978, and kind of a current situation is we work with mostly family-owned type of wineries, and we work in 12, 13, 14 different countries, depending on whether we import from Luxembourg on any given year. And it is, in Spain, we probably import maybe a dozen types of brands. We're strong in Germany. We have a very strong South American portfolio, especially Argentina. And you mentioned some of our other fun estates like Quinta de la Rosa, Montgrave, Tortoise Creek.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're all over the world, and we import to all 50 states, and we sell to Michael's company, Winebow, in about 30 different markets. So we're just chewing up the supply chain. Past me, you go right to the winemaker or principal. So I'm glad to be able to represent a couple of the wineries from Spain today.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
very cool. Well, thanks for joining us because you're right. Tortoise Creek was one of the. Like all of the ones that you mentioned were all ones that we've all really enjoyed, and they're all big favorites. I will say that the first wine that we're starting with tonight is new to me, which is always exciting. It's nice to see some of your old favorites and put them out there to other people. But for me, it's always exciting when it's something that's brand new. Txakolina is not necessarily a wine I think that people know. So that in itself is kind of interesting. So maybe to start a little bit with.
I think Spanish wines in general are super underrated.
That's true.
And then the exposure to some degree with the number of varietals and the number of amazing wines that are types of amazing wines coming out of Spain. It's really an underrated country
I
to
think
me.
they're the. I've said this for a long time, and I feel like it's like beating a dead horse almost that they are still the best buys around, but they still are the best buys around.
And it's like the third largest producer in the whole world of wines is Spain. So here we are with a super underrated, area that people don't really know about, that they're kind of trepidatious to get into, because looking at this label automatically, I was afraid. I don't know how to pronounce it. And so inherently, I'm scared of it because I don't know how to say it.
Unless you're Basque, you're not going to be able to pronounce this. Even the Spanish look at it with kind of a sideways eye. So,
well, let me just pull it up there so people can. Oops, there we go.
Inazio Urruzola Txakolina. Say that 3 times fast. That's what Michael Fick said to me. He was like, "This is the wine that we're going to be doing this week. Say that 3 times fast, Jessica." I was like, "I can't."
Yeah, it's maybe not so friendly to read, but it's super friendly to drink. And
Absolutely.
You mentioned a few things about Spanish wine, and I think a lot of it. I have some slides. I don't know if we want to pull those up and start talking some statistics
Definitely.
and numbers, or at least we can use them as launching points to kind of talk through some of these things. Spain, you mentioned, is the third largest producer of wine. Sometimes it's number 2. It's actually the most widely planted country in the world. So it has the most number of acres of planted vines. You'll see here kind of where Spain falls. You can see it's along the Iberian Peninsula there. I like to put things in perspective. And if you kind of think about it, all along the Mediterranean is really, really warm. And most of Spain is supercontinental, which means that it's cold winters and warm summers. So it's really what we generally consider a warm growing climate, unlike a lot of Europe, which tends to be what we consider old world or cooler growing climate. So if we pop over to the next slide, some Spanish history and facts. It's kind of geeky stuff. You guys can share this PDF with anybody that wants to get geeky. But I think, the tradition of growing grapes for winemaking in Spain goes back thousands and thousands of years. So one of the oldest places where wine is made. And kind of what I think happened is that, Franco was there from, in the mid 20th century, and he didn't really depart until 1975. And that economy was pretty isolated because of that regime. And technology didn't really take off. So 1975 rolls around, and all of a sudden it's like the free new world where Spain is welcomed into the international economy, and things start getting modernized. So I think that's why maybe we're a little behind in terms of understanding Spanish wine, or maybe Spanish wine on the international scene is a little new.
Yeah, I can see that. It's kind of amazing though, because it's such a wide variety. People talk about Italy and how many different varietals there are there, and I mean, and it is, and I'm not taking anything from Italy, but Spain is the same way. I mean, you get
they're like
everything.
137, I think, or something.
Yeah, hit the next slide, and there's actually the statistics there. I can't really read them on this slide, but there's hundreds and hundreds of indigenous varieties,
Yeah.
and about 20 major varieties make up about 80% of all the wine production, and almost all of them are what we would consider indigenous, or some are even international that started there, like Grenache, Garnacha,
Yeah.
started in Spain and was taken to other places where we consider the Southern Rhone based upon that grape variety, but it started in Spain.
Yeah, that's amazing to think about, because I mean, again, I feel like maybe Spanish wines are the Rodney Dangerfield of the old world, because they don't get respect as much as France. Everybody thinks this about France and this about Italy, but Spanish has really got some great kudos of their own.
Yeah, lots of identity and unique identity. That's really fun to explore, and I think we're going to explore a couple of these. Maybe most people know about Tempranillo and probably Rioja, but the Txakolina is something that we can explore. But there's literally hundreds of little regions, and I think it's got DO numbers. There's probably something like 70 denominación de origen areas that are what kind of that same kind of level that we would consider DOC for Italy. And AOP maybe for France. So these protected areas that are considered super unique and super high quality. And let's pop over to the next map.
Yeah, I love this map. I actually posted this map earlier on my social media because I thought it was a good representation of the regions.
I mean, that's a lot of wine growing in one country.
For sure.
Yeah, as we said, it's the most widely planted country in the world, producing the third largest amount of wine. And the reason why it's not, you would think that it would be extremely correlated. The most plantings mean the most wine, but it's not, because it's so arid. And you see that big yellow kind of spot in the middle. That big yellow spot in the middle is super arid. So the plants are planted very, very far apart. So the number of vines per hectare or acre is kind of spread out. So that's why we're producing the third amount, but we're planted the most.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So
while
we
have wines that we're featuring today, that we're at the north end of this map, right?
Yeah. So if you take a look at the very top, you'll see the kind of North Atlantic there, and then it runs into France in the Pyrenees that dot across. So we're going to go right up to that north eastern corner there, to that kind of greenish area, which is what they call País Vasco, or the Basque Country.
Yeah.
And we're going to focus there, and then we're going to pop over on the other side of the Sierra de Cantabrias, which is a mountain range just to the south, to Rioja, which is kind of that darker orange just below there. So we're going to focus on that northeastern part of Spain. And the two growing regions really are super, super different. So we'll explore a little bit what makes them different. I have some great pictures, so we won't get too bogged down in facts. But let's move on. And I'm sure people are thirsty. If you haven't had a sip, or you haven't opened that bottle,
up this bottle.
Yeah, Michael's jonesing. Look at him go.
I'm pretty sure nobody's waiting on us for this. So
we haven't waited.
We're gonna say Yvonne says hi, and Jessica also says hi. Thanks, guys, for tuning in.
Thanks so much for tuning in.
Hopefully you guys got your bottles open or something to join with us. But like I said, this one is new to me. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, I'm like, first sip, I am a huge fan. It's spritzy and light and
minerally,
bone dry, but still has some depth to it, so it's not completely drying out your mouth.
Yeah, it's really neat.
I want to drink it on the front of a boat this summer in a bathing suit. Like, I so see it. It's so perfect for our activities here.
Florida. It's
this is a Florida wine for sure. So I went on a tangent, but let me step off that soapbox.
No, that's totally
for
right.
sure.
Yeah, it's also great with any seafood you pull out of the Gulf.
Thank
Oh
you.
my goodness, yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Ceviche, oysters. I could drink this with raw oysters all day.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm making gumbo for tomorrow, and I was like, what goes with gumbo? I mean, like, it's hard to find stuff that goes with gumbo because it's a little spicy, so you don't want anything too high in alcohol. And I was thinking,
This would be
I
great.
think this would be. I think I might pair this with my gumbo tomorrow.
For sure.
Yeah. I think oysters is like almost the ideal thing, just because it mimics some of that minerality
Yeah.
and salinity that you get.
It's
And
mandatory.
yeah, let's flip to the next slide and take a look geographically where we are. So we kind of saw that we're up in that northeast corner, and we're really pushed up. This particular estate is less than 6 kilometers. So you're talking like 3.5 miles from the Bay of Biscay. So you're really influenced by that North Atlantic climate, which is cool and damp. So you're thinking about a cool weather type of place. So you're not looking for lots of ripeness. It's almost exclusively white wine territory, and you're producing wines that are very, very light and not super extracted. But as you mentioned, it doesn't have to be super extracted and heavy in order to be complex and interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's hop to the next slide. And we have 3 different, I know this is kind of the geeky part, but we'll just kind of knock this stuff out of the way. There's 3 different little areas that are producing Txakolina. And this particular area is really where most of what we're seeing in the U.S. imported from, Guitarriaco, which is each region produces slightly different, and this region typically has that little bit of dissolved CO2, that slight effervescence.
Yes, exactly.
And that's because
a little fizz.
It's just what I call like a prickle, just enough to create some texture to the wine and create a little bit more mouthfeel to it. And it just makes it a little bit more interesting. The other 2 regions produce more of a still type of profile, and this CO2 is happening naturally because they're actually fermenting, obviously, over the winter time, which is even cooler than it normally is there. And this dissolved CO2, during fermentation, we get the process is sugar into yeast, and out of yeast comes alcohol, CO2, and other kind of byproducts. And that CO2 is just naturally occurring and just stays in there because it's bottled young, and it's bottled cool and without a lot of manipulation.
So I want to take you back. I noticed that you pronounced it differently than we pronounce it here.
Which?
You said Txakolina?
Txakolina.
Txakolina?
Yeah, it's kind of like EX.
Txakolina.
You can call it Txakolina, Txakolina. It's my Basque isn't so. I'm not really brushed up on my Basque, but really, I think most people would call it Txakolina. Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, Txakolina. I don't know if there's something wrong with me. As to that, so.
I know.
Yeah. Well, no, I just wondered because it is such an odd name. It's like, I mean, it's not one of those names that you would look at and know exactly how to pronounce. And so,
yeah.
Txakolina, chocolate.
You can call it whatever you want as long as you're buying and drinking.
As long as you buy it, consume it, drink it, enjoy it. That's right.
Actually, just buy it. I don't care what you do with it. I mean, you can wash your dog in it if you really wanted to.
No. My dog.
We're talking about the name Txakolina, and I think we move to the next slide. We can. Okay. There's a picture of what it looks like up there. And because it's so moist, and there's so much humidity that comes off of that Bay of Biscay and that North Atlantic area, that they actually have to grow up on these perugolas, up high, and kind of like up off the ground in this system, so that this canopy system, so that the moisture it kind of frees up the vines and lowers that disease pressure that comes from all that moisture. But you can see it's hilly and green, moist and cool. And you can see there's like, evergreens and stuff, pine looking
Yeah.
stuff that you don't see in most wine growing areas.
It looks quite gray in that picture as well.
You've got tons. And when we go to Rioja, I think it's fun to show these two regions because the Rioja is, if those mountain ranges in the back are the Sierra de Cantabrias, and those mountain ranges actually keep this weather from going into Rioja.
Okay,
It's
interesting.
that close. So while Rioja is like sunny and warm, if you go 20 miles to the coastline here, you're in like soggy bottom.
Yeah, interesting.
Um,
So
yeah.
this, what was the connection with this 14th century and an apple press? I was trying to understand like the origins of this vineyard, and it didn't always start with the production of grapes and with wine, correct?
Yeah, let's flip to the next slide. I probably have some stuff about that in there.
Our production are
Hold on, he's running back across the room.
Oh boy,
So,
got him
there we
moving
go.
now.
There we go.
Let's go to the next one. I think we mentioned enough there, but there's the house that's there. That's the modern house.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's so
Is that the winery?
That is, I think that's the reception room. They're doing some work on the winery. So there's actually an old winery, which wasn't really a winery, but as you mentioned, was there for the production of apples. So apple production and wine grape production overlap in only a very small area, because apple production generally is too cold or too cool. Those apple trees prefer weather that's a little cooler than grapevines prefer. You sometimes find in warmer apple growing regions people that will cross over in grapevines. So if you go to Northern Europe, like what do they drink in Northern Europe? Well, in England, until global climate change or modern technology, they were making cider, right? Cider and beer. Because the raw ingredient, grapes, just wouldn't grow for quality wine. So there's this line that runs across Northern Europe where they start using things like apples or grains rather than grapes. And people up there drink cider and beer. So there's this kind of Northern versus Southern European mentality of what alcoholic beverage you enjoy. And here we have a little bit of crossover. So originally the house, Inazio Urruzola, which is the name of the house, the name of the family is Urruzola, and they were making cider for centuries.
Yeah, like since 14th century. That's a long time. That's amazing to me. I thought that was so fascinating.
That is a long time.
That's forever for us Americans, right?
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
But the family recently, I think, like this generation decided that they wanted to get into wine production. And so they're really into making modern style wine. If we move to the next slide, I think it's fun to talk about the original name of Txakolina, which was, it really wasn't a high production wine. And the name actually means enough for the house in Basque.
Okay.
So Txakolina, see, something wrong with me. Txakolina is really a name that comes from the Basque, which is just enough wine for the house. So this was never a commercial enterprise. And even in the mid 80s, it was almost extinct as a wine growing region. There were only a couple hundred hectares, a few hundred acres worth of grapevines that were grown there. And it's still a very, very small production type of area, and it's mostly small farmers, and most of them are making just enough for their house or to sell to the local pubs.
Aren't we lucky? Aren't we lucky to even get it in the United States?
Yeah, and there's a few producers out there that you can see, and I think the wines are terrific. I was glad to get this in my portfolio, and I drink it in the house, and both of the wines that we're having tonight, I didn't actually have to go to the office to get samples because I make sure that
because you keep them inside,
I keep them in house because I enjoy them that much.
And you would think with something that rare, it would be very expensive, and yet, it's really not.
It's not super cheap, but
what is ours?
We have it priced at $20 a bottle. So it's definitely not super cheap, but it's not outrageous. And
for something that
For the
really
depth of
comes
it?
from such a small area that they only make enough really for themselves and maybe a little more.
It's something that's so distinctive to me that, like, like if you're going to spend $17 on a like moderate something else you've had 1,000 times,
Yeah.
versus something like this that is complex and different and
Yeah.
palatable and approachable from our standpoint of Florida food, oysters,
Oh, yeah.
gumbo, like all that jazz. It's a no-brainer to me to cross over into the standpoint of like trying this. But to me, it is something I've seen the label maybe once or twice before and have been terrified from it just because I didn't
It's
know.
got a lot. It starts with a
There's a
TX.
lot
I mean,
Which
it's not
sounds silly,
familiar to
but
to
it takes that
us.
recommendation. What's the tie to Japan? They talk a lot about Japan on their website. Do you know anything about that?
I'd have to go review what the tie is to Japan. I'm not really sure.
It might be some kind of nonprofit like thing. I do my little dig when I'm educating myself each week. So there was some tie to Japan that I thought was really beautiful, and I think it's like a sister city donation between like sharing experiences of rice and wine, and like exposing communities to each other.
Okay. Yeah,
So it was
cultural exchange.
fascinating.
Yeah, sister cities.
Sister cities, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
could
you
be.
talked about something that I think leads us into the next wine. If we're kind of at 30 minutes, wait, go.
Oh, sorry. Before we move on to the next wine, the grapes, the actual grape. Txakolina is not the grape.
No, that's the name for the wine that's just enough for the house.
Yeah.
So the grape variety is Ondorabi Zuri.
Another reason that's hard for Americans probably to, it doesn't sound like Chardonnay.
No, it's not Chardonnay, and it's not Merlot. So, but it makes sense if you break it down and you speak a little bit of Basque. There is a city there that's called Ondorabi, and Zuri is white. So Ondorabi Zuri is the white grape from this region.
Okay, and so that's the grape.
Yeah, and if you flip through, we use Petit Corbu is like 5% of this blend, and there's actually a touch of Chardonnay in here.
Okay.
So generally, it's I think this wine is 85% or so Ondorabi Zuri, and then there's a dark Ondorabi, which it's called Belza, and that is actually the parent grape for Cabernet Franc. So if you look at the genealogy, there's some familiarity there.
So in that area, you said they do grow Chardonnay. Do they use it just for blending, or do they ever make it?
It's such a minor part of their plantings that it's always part for blending. You don't see any monovarietal Chardonnay, and it wouldn't be anything we would really recognize. We think Chablis is a cool growing climate for Chardonnay. This takes that to another couple degrees beyond.
Yeah, wouldn't be something that would really be so palatable on its own.
I think that it's used for complexity and a little floral note, as well as some of the fruit notes that you get from it. So I think it's added for palate complexity.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we are at the 30 minutes, so we probably need to move along to the Rioja.
Yeah, let's flip through. There might be some cool pictures in here that we can take a peek at. So it is a family, and you can see some of these pictures.
Yeah.
And the family are super nice. Actually, I think she just had a child. I think last week or so. So we were doing sales meetings, and she was 9 months and a day pregnant.
That's beautiful.
There's the winery, so you get to see the nice Basque Country typical winery there.
Yeah, that's really pretty. Nice. And there's the little winery. Do they have a guest house in case we want to go?
I'm not sure about a guest house, but they're building they're building out the old winery part and refurbishing it for some other projects that they're working on.
Okay. Well, it's beautiful.
They do have a receiving room, and they do have a nice place where you can grab a bite to eat, a tasting room kind of thing. So once we're all free and footloose, we are, I can hook you guys up directly with our friend Hobby.
We would love that. Spain is definitely on my top list of places to go as soon as we're able to travel. So mom is my mom's favorite place to go, and some place that I've never been, believe it or not. And so it's high on my list of places. So I will definitely
Yeah,
reach
you
out
go
to you
you
on
go right
that.
to the coastline there, and San Sebastian has the most per capita Michelin stars of any
Oh
city in the
wow,
world.
really?
Yeah, so San Sebastian's your foodie town, your foodie destination,
Oh,
and
good.
this is the wine that you want to drink with all that great stuff that comes on in out of the
Yeah,
Bay.
for sure.
Yeah,
That sounds great.
Definitely.
So
let's keep
But
moving.
the
And
segue that I got so excited about before we talked about what the grapes were was that in 1896, Carlos
Sarah's.
yeah, we've got some pictures of him. So if we want to keep flipping through
we
here,
can keep flipping through the slideshow, left France because of some kind of giant pest or something that took over the crop, right?
yeah, there was a thing called phylloxera, which is a root louse, which destroys plants that aren't resistant to it. So basically, what happened was that trade between the U.S. and Europe, there's two different vine species, and the vine species here and the vine species in Europe didn't have the resistance that the vine species here in America did. So we basically contaminated all European vineyards with a root louse that would lay its eggs in the root system, and then they'd come out and destroy the vine and destroy the arteries and the vein system of the plant. And we basically, the United States almost single-handedly destroyed all of Europe, and it started kind of in Bordeaux and expanded out in the 19th century until there was a cure for it, which was basically putting European vine on American rootstock, and the American rootstock provided the resistance to the root louse. But
Yeah. So we
took
actually saved them as well.
yes, we killed them and saved them at the same time.
Yeah. So I will say the Carlos Serra's wines. I mean, he did come. He came from Bordeaux and to Spain,
Yeah.
correct?
He did.
Salt for I hate that
Terroir.
word. Terroir that could provide him the opportunity to produce Bordeaux style wines in a similar climate, and that's what kind of brought him to Spain. And I thought that was really fascinating as I absorbed that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the presentation here has a lot of that stuff in there, and so let's just flip into it a little bit, and we'll get some pictures. That's a lovely.
That's so beautiful.
Amazing.
Yeah, the Tempranillo grape variety, which is the primary grape variety that's here in Rioja, tends to get these beautiful fall foliage colors, unlike a lot of other grape vines. So, and you're in the land of castles as well, so you put the two and two together, and you've got five here.
Where else are they? Where else is do the wines do this fall foliage like that? Because that's pretty rare, isn't it?
Yeah, it's only
that.
a few grapevines get that depth of color, and you definitely see it with Tempranillo.
It's really beautiful. So Brian and Claudia are enjoying. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you guys got opened the red. It's time for red now. I will say that the Carlos Serras has been a real big popular one at Aragon Wine Market for quite some time now. So while the Txakolina was new to me, this one is an old fave. And I think, do you know the price on it?
Yeah,
here?
it's $26 a bottle here in the
26.
store.
Well, we also carry. This is the I believe the Gran Reserve. They also make just a
Reserva, Crianza, and
and which is not as expensive, which we also sell here that sells very well here too. So,
Definitely.
And you mentioned Tempranillo, but this is not 100% Tempranillo, is it?
It is not. It's got a couple other grape varieties in there. It's got Graciano, which is an indigenous grape, and Mazuelo. Mazuelo is AKA Carignan.
Oh, I love Carignan.
I was kind of spacing out there.
And
what
I didn't
those?
know that though. See, that's good.
Yeah. So Mazuelo and Graciano are really hardier grapes with more structure to them, meaning more acid, more tannin, and it provides the wine more backbone because this wine is specifically meant to age a minimum of 2 years in barrel and a minimum of 2 years in bottle for a total of at least 5 years. So this wine is now, we're 2012.
Yeah.
on the Gran Reserve. So this wine is about 8 years old or so. It's been harvested that long ago.
Yeah.
So that those other grape varieties provide a little bit more structure for the age worthiness of this wine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can. It's so nice though. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I
Fix,
just
what do you
lost
think about the wine?
I just lost my train of thought.
What do I think?
Yeah, what do you think?
I think that the great thing about Gran Reserva Rioja is that they do all of the aging and all of the work for you, the consumer.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we buy a Bordeaux, spend a little bit of money, and we kind of hope that it's where we want it to be in 5 years or 6 years. But the Spanish have mastered the art of aging wines in their cellars and racking them and then bottling them. And then many producers also go the extra mile and they check the corks. They rebottle wines. They really want these. And also, furthermore, these wines can still then age even longer after you buy them. So they really have created almost a magical system to create a wine that is aged and ready to drink right off the bat. And furthermore, I mean, $26, I think we said, or whatever, for a Gran Reserva Rioja. That is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And especially when people taste this, if you taste it on blind, there's no way. If you said this is a Gran Reserva Rioja, they would probably tell you it's, 60, $70. I mean, there's a lot of them out there that cost a heck of a lot more than this. So also I did do this, and what Lee said, it's the land of castles. That's why I did grow this mustache and here today. It's just I wanted to be Don Quixote for Lee, so that was my goal.
Thank you.
It was an homage.
We appreciate that.
Watch out for the windmills, Michael. Watch out for the windmills. They're out to get you.
But I do think that Michael has a really good point. To find it, this is 2012 vintage. To find a 2012 on the shelf as current vintage is pretty rare for most other wines. It's kind of nice that they have done the aging for you. My big thing this whole year has been putting wines away.
Absolutely.
We're drinking
One
them
for
too
now,
young.
one for later.
Yeah, I mean, just put it away.
Well, 3. 1 for now and 2 for later.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's nice to try it with a little age on it. It's even better if Carlos Sierras has done it for you, since we're also wanting to drink everything that we buy, and it's hard to put things away. So I do appreciate that.
Yeah, in terms of flavor profile, what it does is it helps mellow both the acid and the tannin that we were talking about, so that it's not as aggressive on the palate. It also helps calm down kind of the primary fruit characteristics. If you drink Tempranillo in its youth, sometimes it's cherry, berry, lots of red fruit, strawberry, and it's just kind of rooty tooty, fresh and fruity. That's my.
I was gonna say that, but you beat me to it.
Sorry. And it develops what we call tertiary characteristics, which are this kind of cigar box leather, really, really complex notes, and it melds everything together. So you've got a very, very complex wine. This isn't, again, it's not a very full-bodied wine. You have Tempranillo from other areas, or maybe even this area in their youth, and they can be quite aggressive. And this is really, really what I would call a medium-bodied red wine, maybe slightly above medium-bodied, but kind of that medium-bodied, but hyper elegant, with dried fruit characteristics, floral characteristics on the nose, and then on the palate you get all these complex flavors. It's just layers of like kind of starts with dried cherry and goes through like dried violets. And works down into like your grandfather's leather chair and the cigar box that was sitting next to him.
That's an awesome description.
Yeah.
And we jump into the slides a little bit more, but I'm guessing, I can't remember how much American oak is on this. I think that's an important component to Spanish wines, especially Rioja. And then also, we are at a Centenario producer here as well, if I remember correctly, right, Lee? So this is a really historic winery.
Yeah, let's pop into a little bit of that. So we kind of know where we are. We're in that northeast region of Spain. Let's keep moving on that one. And it's around the Ebro River. And Rioja means near the river or related to the river. Rio is actually river in Spanish. So Rioja is like of the river. So it's the river Ebro that we're centered
Oh my
around.
gosh.
I know, right?
You learn all this stuff, right?
Like,
And
I
you-
know,
hello,
right?
you say it and break it down. I'm like, wow, yes, that makes so much sense. Excuse
And if
me.
you look at this region, it's highlighted, and around it you see to the right the Pyrenees, which separates you from France, but above you is the Sierra de Cantabrias, and then there's another mountain range kind of to the southwest that also protects this area and makes it kind of like a warm, dry climate. Let's keep going, and that's kind of the Sierra de Cantabrias. I'll show you a picture better than this that'll describe what's going on. But let's keep moving. We have 3 sub-regions of Rioja. We're in Rioja Alta, and all of it comes out of a single vineyard. We'll show you in a second. Let's keep moving on this one. So this is a picture I took when I was there a couple of years ago. And this is
It's really beautiful.
It looks back on the Sierra de Cantabrias, and you can see how blue the sky is above where I am. And then above the mountain range, you can see those clouds that are actually being held back by the mountain range. And on the other side of that mountain range is where we produce Txakolina, the Basque Country. So this is separating us from that climate, that Bay of Biscay and North Atlantic climate, so that we get warm, sunny days, which is great for our Tempranillo and other grape varieties there.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I want to get to the kind of the facts, what the French did here to kind of change, and Carlos Serres being a part of it. So let's move to the next one. There's another nice shot.
Yeah, beautiful. So
And
beautiful.
there's a castle in there. Rioja's been around forever. But I want to talk about maybe the next slide here. It's going to say about Phylloxera. We talked about Phylloxera and how people were trying to find where they could produce wine because they couldn't produce wine where they were. And all these Bordelais people, all these people from Bordeaux came across the Pyrenees and found where this terroir looked similar to what they were. And all these French immigrants came into Spain, this region of Aro, that's in Rioja Alta, and set up shop and started making wine there like they made wine in Bordeaux. And what they did is they brought with them their technology, both in terms of viticulture, and maybe the most important thing is that kind of barrel aging that Michael was touching on. So let's move to the next slide there. We talk about Phylloxera, that's kind of boring. And Aro, we mentioned, Aro was there. This was kind of the town where everybody set up. There was a railroad there, so the railroad was actually key and why everybody set up shop there, because they could export their wines easy. But let's move to the next one. And so the Bordelais, what did they bring with them? Yes, they brought viticultural techniques, what they did in their region. What they did in their region compared to here was barrel aging. And they found that these barrels that they were using would mellow the wine. And Tempranillo in its youth, as I mentioned, is really pretty aggressive. And because Spain had colonies and they were able to actually buy barrels from the United States cheaper or more easier. Sometimes they were at war with the French, and they found that through the time that actually American oak, because of its wider grain and kind of sweeter flavor profile, matched with the Tempranillo grape just perfectly. So there's this tradition of American oak in Europe, in especially Rioja, because it works so well with that Tempranillo grape to temper it, sweeten it, and take out some of the kind of aggressive, sharp corners of it. So that's why we have this classification system of Crianza, Reserva, and Gran Reserva, and each one moves up in terms of how long the wine will spend in a barrel. And
Let's touch on that while you're at it. Why don't you just do a little primer on, the Crianza, the Gran Reserva and Reserva, like what are the, I know there's specific rules that they have to follow.
Yeah. So, I don't want to get, because it's different for Rioja than other regions, but it moves up basically. It has to spend for Crianza, I think it's 6 months or a year in barrel before it can be released. And then Reserva is, I think, 18. I think it's a year for Crianza, 18 months for in barrel for Reserva and 24 months for Gran Reserva. But there's also mandatory time that needs to spend in a bottle and a minimum amount of time that it needs to spend between the two. And so it's like 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years moving up from Crianza
I mean,
Reserva.
it's pretty technical rules that they have to follow.
Right.
Yeah. And if you look at the bottle, there's this strip at the bottom that says Rioja and it says Gran Reserva.
Yeah.
There's this thing called the Consejo Reguladora, which is the regulating body that is very, very strict about what you can do, how you do it, and it starts not only in the vineyard and the blends that you can use and when you can harvest and what alcohol levels and the methods that you use, how long it spends in a barrel, and then they actually taste the wine to make sure that it meets the specifications, both in terms of profile, does it taste like it's a Reserva, and does the quality meet the level the minimum level that we want it to. So it's very, very strict.
And so if I mean, it's kind of like if people have heard of, for Italian wines, DOC, DOCG, it's kind of like that kind of regulations.
Yeah, and this is there's only two, the equivalent would be DOCG in Italy for here, because we're at the highest level, which is DOCA, which is calificada. And in Spain and in Italy, it's guaranteed. But here it's calificada. And there's only two regions in Spain that meet this high level, whereas in Italy they throw it around like lira.
Yeah. Right.
So the other one is Priorat, is the only other highest level. The DOCA or DOQ would be for, again, in Catalan they speak Catalunya, so they got different initials and stuff. But very strict regulations and very high quality here.
Well, that's super cool. Well, that's been really informative. I always feel like on these shows that we could talk forever about the wines and the area. And I mean,
I definitely feel like we were just scratching the surface, especially with Carlos, because he is known as literally the leading, one of the pioneers in the imports of Rioja around the world.
He was part of the
scope of imported wines in the
he actually started the organization that eventually became the Consejo Regulador, which was the Rioja exporters. We have some cool photos in that thing that you guys feel free to share with your customers and stuff. Really old pictures dating back to drawings of pictures,
Oh yeah,
amazing.
That date back. Yeah, so it's a 100-year producer, 1896, and what they're known for is really making traditional wines, but with modern techniques, so that the wines are very, very clean and precise and aren't dirty. If you taste some Spanish wines, they taste like they've been maybe in an old cellar for too long. These are very precise wines that have very, 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 very precise flavor profiles that are like wines of yesteryear, but made with modern technology and modern techniques. So they're super squeaky clean and really clear flavors without any off flavors or mustiness or any infection or bacteria or whatever kind of.
I would like to have you back sometime to do maybe a white Rioja. We are doing with our have a little wine club online, and we choose a wine every month. And this month it's white Rioja, and I find them so very interesting. And so, but I don't know anything much about them. I think maybe we have you back sometime and talk about a white Rioja and give us some suggestions on something like that. I feel like the one that we actually tried one with you recently at Union Public House.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of almost got a petrol-y kind of flavor to it, and the oldest white wine I think I've ever had, other than like a champagne or something, was a white Rioja a few years ago from the 80s, and so they're very much a white that's age worthy.
Yeah, they're very high. They tend to be very high acid, and there is a tradition there of some of the producers that are Lopez de Heredia that release their wines a decade. How many times have you had a new release of rosé that's 20 years old? Not 2020, 20 years old. So yeah, there is a tradition of barrel aging and holding on to some wines Michael might be able to sell you a little bit of Carlos Ceres. It's actually interesting because I think about 75–80% of the white, there's not a lot of white grapes there. I think it's 10% of all plantings are white grapes, but 75% of it is based on Viura. Our variety, our wine has 25% or so of a grape called Tempranillo Blanco, which is a mutated variant.
That means it's a new grape that we just. So.
And you talk about rare; it's more rarer than under Abizuri.
So is that something that Fix can get us around here?
He can fix you up, man.
Yeah, I can. We can get you some.
I think we've planned our next meeting.
Yeah, so let's talk off air, and we've primed the people here for a little bit of White Rioja, and we'll keep exploring the rarer parts of Spain.
Oh, well, I think that's great. Well, and like I said, I always feel like we've just scratched the surface, and I think that we've got something planned for next time. So, Lee, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Stay warm out there in Chicago.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, ladies, for having me. Michael, good to mostly see you. And
the shadow lurking.
Keep up the good fight, my friend. Keep up the good fight.
Thanks, Lee. Bye. Oh, that was awesome.
Fix, that was awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I love the idea of White Rioja being maybe something up on deck because it's not something that we see a lot of, but I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated by it. I got a new one in the store, so we do have one in the store. If you are also fascinated with it as well, I haven't tried the new one. So yeah,
So next week we have an exciting week
I'm
ahead.
super excited because Aaron Pot is going to be joining us. Aaron Pot, I'm not even going to be able to talk because I might say Aaron. I'm going to be embarrassed because I'm super intimidated by this guy. He's he is the winemaker in Napa. If you've heard of his winery Blackbird. He also consults, I believe, for some other wineries as well. Michael, tell us a little bit about Aaron Pot and Blackbird.
Yeah, he's not intimidating. He's a super cool guy. We have the musical notes from the Beatles song Blackbird on the labels, but they are kind of a little bit more, I don't want to say culty, but they have a little bit of that cult following. He does a little bit, certainly with Blackbird over the years. But he started his wine life at Newton, and I know people are familiar with Newton. And then also, we got the wines there to look at too. So then also he went to Bordeaux and decided to, he became a winemaker at Langmondeau in Saint-Emilion. Saint-Emilion. And then also, at Figeac. And then came back to the U.S. He was at Quintessa. He's worked with as a consultant for a lot of different wineries. But I did a Zoom call with him just to learn about his wines. It seems like it was only a few months ago, but it might have been a year ago. Time doesn't make sense these days, but really he was so energetic and engaging and such a really fun guy and really passionate about his wines, and I know that'll show through, and everybody will be really excited about that. And
I'm super excited. I can't.
And we have kind of two sides to the coin. We have a Blackbird wine, and we have Arena, which is a little bit more of like your Wednesday night drinker, or and the Blackbird might be your Saturday night, or your whatever.
The Arena comes in at $14 a bottle, so it's definitely more of the.
I mean, if you're getting an Aaron Pot wine for $14 a bottle, just solid. Get it.
No question.
And then
the
we're gonna do
Arise.
the Arise Blackbird, and he's got some Blackbird labels that are a lot more expensive than this. So if you can get a Blackbird for
this one's $41 a bottle.
Okay, so 41. So it's definitely not a Tuesday night drinker, but
it could be.
Yeah, but it's not $140. It's not $140. It's not $140 either. So it's that's where it's a great thing to bring to a gathering of your friends and or to have when you're just I think these days, and I talked to Charlotte about this, I've opened up probably more expensive wine, not expensive, excuse me, I shouldn't use that word. I've opened up more higher end wines for myself the last year than I have.
Yeah, I think we all have.
Because I'm just sitting there and on a Friday and I'm going, I deserve this. It's because it's Friday. So who cares? It's not a birthday. It's not a holiday. It's just because it's Friday or it's Tuesday.
I said this a million broadcasts ago, and it continues to ring true to me. Like, don't save the fine china. Like, don't save it for like celebrate today. If you want to open a beautiful bottle of wine, open it up. You know, put the nice china out on the table.
Yeah, for
celebrate
sure.
each day.
And I think, a lot of us are not, we're not traveling. We've got a little disposable income as opposed to, traveling and going out, to the bars or restaurants or whatever. So, so make your home as lovely as it can be with a nice bottle of wine. So.
I think that it sometimes diminishes what I was really trying to say, which is like value of the human experience, which is even on a Thursday, it's worth opening that beautiful bottle of wine to share with someone. And
absolutely.
Have an amazing bottle of wine.
Yes.
Even on a Thursday.
Especially on a Thursday.
Yes, definitely.
Well, thanks, Fix. Thanks for joining us as usual. Fix has got us fixed up for the rest of the month. And he's also going to fix us up for March. And then hopefully we'll be doing wine tastings back in the store in April. We shall see. If not, we'll play it by ear, and whatever makes us happy, we'll do that. But I appreciate everybody bearing with us during these times where we can't always have you guys in the store and see you. But hopefully when things get pretty outside, we'll be doing some outside tastings. And,
definitely. Yeah. And don't forget Valentine's Day.
Don't forget Valentine's Day.
Countdown.
It's Sunday.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great night.
Bye.